Ooh.
Whoa. Got it.
So I think that we possibly have questions or comments on your book, but we also, if you wanted to start us off by talking about like how you wrote the book, what your process was in maybe selecting the stories that went into the collection, or even just how you go about writing a short story. How do you know what your idea is, where to stop, where to start?
Sure. Thank you. I'd love to talk about it. Thank you. Well, yeah, can I say thank you again for for having my book as part of the book club. I think that's really cool. Uh, I, and I'm nervous about it, so that's good. Uh, so let me see. For this book, it's the way it started was I originally didn't plan on writing a book. Except for I wanted to write a small number of stories, and then I was going to publish them on the internet with my friend Giacomo Pope, who is a poet, and we were going to sort of do like not like a collaboration thing, but sort of two related works that sort of influenced each other. But then we realized we were having too much fun writing, and they were each getting longer than we anticipated, and so we thought we would just work them into real books. And my process at the time for this book, once I had that idea down, was I would intentionally go in trying to write small bursts of a few stories at once, like in one sitting, sort of like dumbly with the plan of like, this is going to go in the book, and then just try to iterate from there. And after I had, I don't know, maybe like 50 stories or a little less, I remember putting them all out and trying to categorize them by some themes that made sense in my head. And I put them into little piles, and then when I had like too many piles, I had to start cutting them and then trying to make them make sense together. So that was the main part of the process. And then once I had sort of the main ideas of what I thought was most exciting about the stories coming together, then I could write towards that more. And then my editing process, I got a lot of feedback from other writers that I'm friends with and from the publisher and editor Tao. So it went through a couple iterations where I would like talk to other people about it. Basically, we would trade book manuscripts, and it's a good process to get some like feedback on what people know to certain themes or certain strengths or weaknesses, and then you can sort of either care about what they say or not, and then try to dive into more what you're hoping to accomplish. I feel like you asked a lot of questions. Did I answer everything so far?
Absolutely. Yeah, that was all
Okay.
a lot all at once. Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
I've actually read Tao Lin and I saw him in the acknowledgments, and I was thinking that you have similar writing styles to Tao Lin and very minimalistic, millennial. Like, were you inspired by him, and who were the writers that you were inspired by to write this book?
Yeah, good observation. And the answer is definitely, yeah, he was a big inspiration for me getting into writing. I remember, I think Tao's books in like 2009, 2010 were some of the first like smaller press books that I'd read, things that weren't like more well-known canonical stuff you'd find like on the Barnes and Noble shelf. And I think I found out about him through a blog that was run by a web cartoonist at the time, which feels like a very 2009, 2010 experience. And so, yeah, his writing was exciting to me. And then for a while, I went to graduate school for linguistics, and I didn't really do any reading for fun for a long time. And then when I was done with that, I wanted to get back into reading contemporary writing again, and I sort of went back to Tao Lin and sort of refell in love with some of the weirder stuff that's out there that I could find at the time. So yeah, for me there were like sort of two discrete eras where I like got a lot of enjoyment out of reading his writing, and then branched out from there. So I remember probably one of my favorite collections by him is actually on the internet for free. It's on bearparade.com. It's a short story collection that has a fun backstory to it, where I think it was supposed to be published by Future Tense Books, but then he argued with the editor, Kevin Samsel, for so long about it that they dropped the contract and he put it on the internet on a website for free instead. But I think it's a great collection, and I remember not going back and rereading it before writing this, but thinking about what I liked about it from like a vague memory of it and trying to approximate some of those things. And then after I was done with this book, I went back and reread it. And I was kind of surprised at a lot of the things I completely forgotten about. And I felt sort of good that I didn't, at least I don't think I like fully ripped him off. But yeah, he used like a lot more semicolons than I remember and stuff like that. And then he runs Moo House, so he published this book. So that's the other thing. So he's in the acknowledgements because he published it and he helped edit it, and he's been great to work with.
I can ask a question.
Millennial writing, and I'm a millennial, so yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So something we've read a few collections of like really short stories, and I always, whenever we read these, I always ask myself, yeah, how do you know? And I guess you kind of answer this a little bit, but yeah, how do you know when it's done after like 3 sentences, right? Versus some are like multiple pages. So yeah, I guess maybe it is more of a process question. Yeah, when do you decide a story is done, especially with the diversity in length? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's a good question. I remember, so there's like when people talk about flash fiction, in my opinion, they have a general like preset notion about what it is, and most of what you find people promoting as flash fiction on the internet, I feel like, is written in a certain way where it always has like this sort of emotional twist at the end that can get kind of predictable. And so I remember, for better or worse, intentionally approaching writing short fiction to try to subvert that specifically. So I think there's probably a relationship in length where either I wanted it to be like, I wanted the length to be part of what made it fun. So the idea of making like a really big story in a really small space, or including a lot of things that probably shouldn't be included, but putting them in anyway. And then the converse or the inverse or whatever for longer stories where repetition can become the effect. That's where something that probably doesn't need to be so long is now very long. So I think it's just me trying to like, at least for this collection, like follow this sort of self-important idea of subverting expectations. And then at the end of the day, often if what I thought worked best was to think about what made me laugh the most, in terms of saying like, this is a story. Like imagining someone picking it off the shelf and what would make them like the most mad or something like that. And that seemed like a good, that and trying to make the stories as stupid as possible. So I think that plays into length too. So, that just goes back to the first thing I said. Yeah. Thank you.
So I've been trying to get my nephew into reading books lately, and he works for Tesla, and I was watching this interview with the owner of Tesla, the guy who runs it, right? And he was talking about when he was young, he was all depressed, and he read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series, and it kind of cheered him up because he thought of it almost like as a book on philosophy. So I was just, me growing up, I was really into that series of books, and
yeah, same.
I kind of feel similar. I was just trying to think if any books growing up influenced you like that.
I remember specifically reading The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, at least the first, 4 or 5 books. And I remember I had his essay collection or nonfiction collection. I remember specifically there's some story he wrote about going to like a prep school, and he had to wear a uniform that he hated. And I remember distinctly trying to tell my distracted dad the anecdote from that story that I thought was funny, and he was like not able to pay attention to me when I was talking about it. But it's about how Douglas Adams remembers hating the outfit so much that he wanted to walk into traffic and get hit by a car. I thought that was funny. That's my Douglas Adams story. But yeah, I remember. Yeah, I think there's like a good. When I was a kid, I really liked science fiction and fantasy stuff. I remember Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I remember I was really into Lord of the Rings, probably around when the movies were coming out, because everyone started reading them then. They're pretty good. Bunch of like random sci-fi series I don't remember the names of anymore. That I have good memories of. And then I remember getting into Kurt Vonnegut's writing probably earlier than I should have, because my older brother was an English teacher at the time. And I remember, I think it was the summer before 8th grade, he like pointedly gave me a present of Timequake by Kurt Vonnegut. And so I think that had a big impact on me too. I remember basically trying to read every Kurt Vonnegut book that had been published like by the time I finished high school.
Did you read the collection Bamboo Snuffbox? I really liked the story about like the guy had to choose between killing his grandma or his wife because of population control, because his baby was being born. It was so like absurdist, but really good.
Yeah, I should go back and read his stories. I probably read that, I don't know, like 15 years ago now. It's on my shelf. I think my copy of it has the cover ripped off because it's like disintegrated, because I've been like carting it around for so long. Yeah, I should go back and reread it. I remember, because he would do like, he was pretty wacky, and he had a dry, deadpan sense of humor. And yeah, I liked his like autobiographical, autofictional approach coupled with like self-deprecating humor. Yeah, so he was pretty big for me. I should go back and read the stories. That's a good idea.
Are there any final or other questions? I have one more if nobody else has any. Aaron, did you want to share your insight about monologues? It was pretty great.
How do I say it again? I was just saying that a couple times, I have a master's in theater, and I was a professional actor for a while. Done lots of theater, a lot of Shakespeare. Been in some films too, but I would be reading some of them, and I would feel like they would be perfect monologues for when you audition. And you need like a 3 to 5 minute monologue. A lot of them are written almost like they're monologues you would use in theater.
Oh wow, thank you. I hadn't thought about that. I don't really know anything about theater, but it kind of makes sense.
Talk, but yeah.
I'm trying to think. I guess that's interesting. Yeah, because like the connection in my head I could riff on is that I was also inspired a lot by Thomas Bernhard's writing. In some of these stories more than others, but I'm sure there's like a general through line you could dissect. But his big thing is having this strong, like, lunatic character, basically, who will go on a really long monologue. Like, I think the book Gargoyles is like 200 pages, and like, I don't know, 170 pages is just this prince who's just insane and just talks the whole time. And I remember being really affected by that and impressed by it. And, the introduction of like contradictions and, often I think like in movies, I'm not the biggest movie buff, but maybe it's kind of a trope in like movies, like bad movies, for like every monologue to be like logical and planned out, and for the villain to be like, this is the logical thread of what I'm saying, I'm laying it out. But in real life, if you were to talk for like 5 minutes straight, you probably wouldn't make any sense. And that really appealed to me. So I think that I think you're onto something, that there's a monologue type quality to some of the stories that resonates with me. I think it's a good observation. Thank you. You should read one of them next time you do a audition and tell me how it goes.
I will. I'll let you know if I
Yeah.
need to audition again. I mean, I've gotten to the point where I write and direct more. So,
Okay.
but every once in a while I do. So I'll take one of these and I'll
That'd be
say
good.
after I use it, this is thanks to the author. I don't
Thank
know, something really undramatic.
Okay, well, I guess if there are no other questions, we have our poll to do for next month's meeting. Zach, you're welcome to join book club if you want to. You're more than welcome in.
Am
Yeah, totally. You can. Yeah, we're but we every month we vote for next month's book, and if you want to, be delighted to have you. But
I appreciate the offer. This is gonna sound made up, but I probably won't join in because I'm on the East Coast and I'm actually already up past my bedtime because I have a baby and a preschooler. But I'll probably still read what it is if it sounds interesting. So,
great. Okay.
but I probably won't
Zach,
join the discussion.
it's okay. Our friend Dan, who you didn't get to meet, his mom was in book club with us, and she lives in New York City. And Layla tried to get her to join book club, but Dan was like, "No, this is my thing, Mom."
Oh, wow.
So Layla has done this to other people as well. So don't feel bad for not joining. It's okay.
I think it's good. I think book clubs are great. I support them.
They are great, and thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course, I really means a lot to be invited to talk to everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Go to bed.
Thank
Have a
you.
night.
I appreciate that. Yeah.